स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतंगमय। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the establisher of universal religion. Let us pray to him to lead us from unreal to the real, to lead us from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Today's topic which I am going to speak, skills of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna was very great because of his realization of the Supreme Godhead. He had the experience of impersonal God as well as personal God. He declared that the infinite forms of God are real. He also declared that God has no forms. That means he concluded God is with forms as well as without. So there need not be any quarrel between the worshippers of personal God and those of impersonal God. Whatever form of God, whatever aspect of God we worship, we get the spiritual experience by which we get supreme peace and joy. A man worshipping personal God enjoys same blessedness and peace as that of one who had realized formless aspect. Sri Ramakrishna practiced all different religions of the world to find out himself the authenticity of all these religious paths, whether they all lead to the goal or whether these different religious paths lead the people away from God. It's a very important point we should remember. Finally, he experienced everyone passing through one's own spiritual path will certainly reach the goal. It is a tremendous assurance and hope given by Sri Ramakrishna. By this wonderful experience, he integrated all different religions of the world without quarrel. And he invites them all. And he concluded, because all religions lead to the same center Godhead, the whole creation is the manifestation of God himself. God has filled in every bit of the space of this universe. So everyone, whether he knows it or not, is a wonderful divine child of the Supreme Paramatman or Godhead. So we are all children of the same God, who is called by different names, who is worshipped in different ways, who is approached in different ways, who is experienced in different ways. And our Vedas declare all the women folk in the creation are sisters. All the men folk in the creation are brothers. There's a wonderful Sanskrit quotation from the Upanishad stating this. And Swami Vivekananda gave expression to this Upanishadic statement when he addressed Parliament of Religions, dear sisters and brothers of America. It was so spontaneous. He felt from the bottom of his heart. He felt everyone is very close to him. So it was a wonderful expression of genuine spiritual love. It is only through spirituality we can bring peace and harmony in the world, not by anything else. Not by anything else. Spirituality is nothing but practical life based on principles and values. It is based on discipline. When we really follow the spiritual path, following all disciplines and guidelines given by the holy people, we are sure to get real peace and happiness. Sri Ramakrishna possessed a remarkable intellect, buddhi we call. Buddhi is very important. It is that which has got the faculty of deciding. Two things come before every time, good and bad, pleasant and unpleasant, truth and untruth. All opposites, they come, dharma, adharma, moral, immoral. In so many ways, they always come in pairs. They present before us. If you are not careful, you are led astray. So buddhi is a very important faculty given to us by the Supreme God to carry on our life in a glorious way in this world. So it means we have to sharpen our intellect and we must know and act. Get training and live. Sri Ramakrishna had great intellect, sharp and shrewd, with an artistic mind. He had the additional qualification. What was that? He had seen God face to face. He talked with him and he shared the divine life. His whole life is a practical demonstration of spirituality. There is a stamp of genius in all his sayings and utterances. Very simple, very effective, touching to the heart. Anybody who wants spirituality in the purest form will find it in the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, in the life and message of Sri Ramakrishna. His words, with all their artistic beauty and sublimity of thought, have a weight of authority derived from the Supreme Being himself on transcendental themes. If we go through his teachings, we find there is a tremendous skill in his wonderful teachings, what we call in Sanskrit Kaushalyata. Kaushalyata. The spiritual value and the philosophic depth are conveyed through skillful anecdotes, stories and parables. He would touch the people through common experience. He would explain the intricate philosophical problems with simple, understandable solutions through stories, through day-to-day experience. That is the beauty of Sri Ramakrishna. That is the beauty of his realization and experience. That shows how Sri Ramakrishna manifested fully this skill. Once some people were crossing the Ganges river in a boat. Among many people, there was one Pandit who was well versed in scriptures. He had read well. Because he knew so many things, he wanted to talk about them. Naturally, a person who knows singing wants to sing In the same way, person who wants to show up his knowledge wanted to talk to somebody. So he talked to the neighbor and said, well, have you studied Vedanta? There is so many things in this world, 6 systems of philosophy. So, have you got any knowledge of the Vedas? He started putting questions, without knowing that particular person wanted it or not. He wanted to enter into some kind of discussion. So, he asked it. Of course, that poor man replied, no sir, I have not read Vedas. But this Pandit immediately remarked, oh, what a great unfortune. You are very unfortunate. Well, it's all right, but do you know anything about Upanishads and Vedanta? Again he put the question. Again the man said no. Then the Pandit remarked, what a shame. You have not read even the Upanishads. What about Sankhya? What about yoga? Like that he began to keep on asking him, pestering him. But then the man said, well, sir, please, why are you asking all these questions to me? I know nothing of such things. Then the Pandit said, so your life is futile. Nobody can save you from risks and dangers in life. Like this, the Pandit was boasting about his knowledge, the scriptural knowledge. But the passenger was sitting in silence, not reacting to the emotions and excitement of the Pandit. Then all of a sudden a great storm arose. The boat was shaking in a dangerous way. People were all frightened. Any moment they may all be drowned in the ocean. Now the passenger silently turned aside and saw the Pandit, and then asked him whether he could swim. The Pandit replied, no. Then the passenger said, well, I don't know your Vedas, your Vedanta, your Upanishads, your Sankhya, your yoga. I don't know all these things, but I can swim. See how beautiful, in a skillful way, Sri Ramakrishna teaches a great point. What will a man gain by knowing many scriptures, by reading volumes of books? Whole library he might have read. What does it matter if he had not practiced one idea in one book? What's the use of this reading the whole library? The one thing needful is to know how to cross the river of the world. Samsara sagaram ghoram tartumichchati yojanaha Gita navam samaruhya param yati sukhena saha. Samsara sagaram ghoram. This ocean of worldliness is so dreadful. Why it is dreadful? Because it drowns us into ignorance. The more we are in ignorant state, the more we are unhappy. The more we become depressed. So in order to get rid of this dreadful state, we have to sit on the boat of Gita, the divine message of Lord Krishna. that will take you across the ocean of the world. So God alone is the real and all else illusory. In another time, Sri Ramakrishna said, Arjun was learning archery. He was aiming his arrow at the eye of the bird. Dronacharya was the teacher. He just wanted to test the efficiency of his student. So he asked him, what do you see? Do you see these kings who are standing all around? Arjun replied, no, sir. Do you see me? No. The tree? No. The bird on the tree? No. Not even the bird. Then what do you see? Sir, Arjun is telling, only the eye of the bird. That is, his concentration is maximum. Pointed, pinpointed. Ekagrata, we call in Sanskrit. Ekagra. All the energy is focused on a single particular theme. Just on the eye of the bird. Because he has to shoot an arrow. He has been told by the teacher. So he is first concentrating on that. That is, he who sees only the eye of the bird can hit the mark. So Sri Ramakrishna says, he alone is clever, shrewd, who sees that God is real and all else is illusory. What need have I of other information? Once Hanuman remarked, Hanuman, the great devotee of Sri Ramchandra, I don't know anything about the phase of the moon or the position of the stars. All these things I am not bothered to know even. Why? I only contemplate Rama. I want Sri Ramachandra. So my whole being is at it. So like that we must direct our mind. What we want, accordingly we get. If you want God, we get God. If you want the world, you get the world. So you are getting it, no doubt. Nobody need say that. The very fact we are not getting the vision of God means our efforts are not proper, mind is not properly concentrated, and there is no sincerity in our purpose. We talk so many things. There is a lot of difference between talking and doing and feeling. Some other time Sri Ramakrishna said another parable, very interesting. There he said, a group of fisherwomen had been to market to sell their products. A lot of people had come there. So everything was over. The evening was coming. They had to return back. And they were returning. On the way, there was a terrible hailstorm. So they are supposed to take shelter under somebody's home. They were very hospitable. They welcomed these fisherwomen and told, well, there's a lot of rain outside. And moreover, it is getting late in the night. You can spend your time tonight here. Morning you can go to your place. So they all came. And they were happy and they kept their baskets, empty baskets, fish baskets in a corner. And they lay down in the place where they were asked to sleep. The owner of the house, he was a florist. He used to sell flowers. So naturally, the whole place was full of the fragrance of the flowers. No doubt it is a good fragrance, but these fisherwomen are not used to that fragrance. So they are changing their sides and they are trying to get sleep, but they are not getting. Some kind of allergy they developed. They are restless, not peaceful. So the owner came and wondered what is this happening to them. Why they are restless, not comfortable. So he asked them, what is the matter? They are not getting sleep. Then they said, well, yeah, we are not really feeling comfortable because probably the smell of the flowers has been disturbing our sleep. So what's to be done? So they suggested, you please give those baskets to us, which we have kept away. The baskets were brought, and these ladies, they sprinkled some water on it. Immediately they got the smell of the fish. So then they began to snore, had a very good sleep. Such indeed is the power and influence of habit. Influence of habit. The worldly person, brought up in and accustomed to materialistic thoughts and surroundings, cannot breathe long in an atmosphere of purity and renunciation without feeling restless and uncomfortable. Once, Sri Ramakrishna came to meet Keshav Chandra Sen, a very reputed person of the time, a very great leader of the Brahmo Samaj, a very good orator. He had large following. So Sri Ramakrishna went to see him. So as soon as he saw Keshav Chandra Sen, Sri Ramakrishna remarked, Keshav Chandra Sen is the only one who has dropped his tail. His words were very funny. People all laughed. What is this? First time he is coming and talking to Keshav Chandra Sen, a very famous person, and he is talking like this. What is the meaning of dropping the tail? And Keshav Chandra Sen said, don't laugh, there must be some meaning in what he said. Then Sri Ramakrishna explained, the tadpole, so long as it has not dropped its tail, lives only in the water. It cannot move about on dry land. But as soon as it drops its tail, it hops out on the bank. Then it can live both on land and in water. Likewise, as long as a man has not dropped his tail of ignorance, he can live only in the water of the world. But when he drops his tail, that is to say, when he attains the knowledge of God, then he can roam about as a free soul or live as a householder if he likes. He is not to be worried about anything, whether he is a monk or a householder. He is a free man, free soul, nothing to bind him. That's the meaning of shedding the tail. Beautiful anecdote. How wonderfully Sri Ramakrishna is trying to teach the sublime spiritual ideas. Once Narada, a great devotee of Sriman Narayan, he came to him, and one day it so happened a desire came to him. So he asked Lord Vishnu how his Maya could make the impossible possible. People talk so many things about Maya. Will you please make me understand it? Because he was a great devotee, he was always having the vision of God, and so he was always happy. So he could not know what exactly Maya people talking about. He wanted to have himself, he wanted to have some experience to know what exactly it means. So the Lord said, all right, you will know it in course of time. Then after some time, they were walking along the street, Lord Vishnu and Narada. After walking through some distance, the Lord said, well, Narada, I am feeling thirsty. I need water to drink. Will you please bring some water? Oh, it's very easy, I can bring. Sure. So he went out to fetch the water. And the Lord is waiting for him. Narada went in search of water. Going, not able to find. After walking through a long distance, at last he found a river at the eyesight. Then he felt very happy. Well, I can easily go and fetch water. So he immediately ran towards that riverside. When he approached the river, he saw there a lady sitting in a most charming way. She was very gentle, very polite, and very beautiful to look at. And she smiled at Narada, and she began to converse with him. So Narada was very much fascinated by her talks, her gentle behavior. So he was completely attracted by her, so much so he forgot what for he was coming to river. His whole mind is now sitting on the beauty of the lady. Well, both of them agreed, they married. Narada was wonderfully happy. So he settled down as a householder, as anybody does it. They had a wonderful time. In course of time, as usual, they had many children. Once it so happened, there was some epidemic disease in the village where they were living. So many people were dying. So Narada and his wife, they thought, why not we move away from this village, because so many people are dying, it is epidemic, we don't know what will happen to our kids. Let us all move away to some other place. So they went on with all their bag and baggage with their kids, left the village and trying to go to some other place. On the way, they had to pass a bridge. They are passing through the bridge. Just in the middle of the bridge, immediately there was a flash flood. Nobody knew. Suddenly it came up. The water level rose to such a high extent. It flooded the bridge. All the kids were taken away by the current of the water. Narada was very unhappy, very unpleasant. And he's just trying to understand the things. In that process, even the wife also was carried away. That was a total shock. for Narada. He could not bear. It was terrible for him. Terrible pain, anguish. So, seeing that his own kith and kin, children, wife, whom he loved so much, he had so much attachment to them, suddenly they all disappeared. What a greatest tragedy. He began to lament and weep bitterly. Weeping, crying, shouting. Just then, from the backside, he heard a voice. My dear Narada, where is the water? What happened to my water? You told you would bring water to me. What happened to that? And moreover, why are you weeping? It's amazing. What happened to you? Narada was startled, seeing Lord Vishnu. Immediately he was awakened to the reality. Awakening, very important point. We all need to be awakened. We are all in steep ignorance. Because of ignorance, we fight, we quarrel, we harbor jealousy, we harbor hatred, all sorts of dirty things. All these are clubbed under ignorance, Maya. We need to be awakened. That awakening comes only through spirituality. So Sri Ramakrishna knows how to kindle this spiritual idea in everyone through these anecdotes. And Narada felt terribly ashamed, and then he understood everything. He exclaimed, O Lord, my salutations to you, and my 1,000 salutations also to your wonderful Maya. Like that Narada Maharshi said. One thing that is important that we should know, everybody. Anybody trying to live spiritual life need to know that practice is essential. Practice is essential. It's absolutely necessary. And by practice one develops wonderful faith. In the beginning it may start like a blind faith. Nobody has seen God. But I have faith in the name of God and go on repeating it. By constantly repeating the divine name, it gives me joy and gives me little hope in my spiritual path, and that keeps me ongoing and develops my faith, and finally it leads me to realize the truth. Once upon a time, Vyasa Maharshi, he desired to cross Jamuna. See, there are two rivers, famous holy rivers in India. One is Ganga, another is Yamuna. Jamuna, which was greatly associated with Lord Krishna. Just at that time, the gopis, the devotees of Lord Krishna, they also wanted to cross the river. They all came there, but there was no boat. How to cross it? Now, then they asked Vyasa Maharshi, well, what shall we do now? We also wanted to cross the river. Then Vyasa said, don't worry about that. I will take you across the river. But before that, will you please give me something to eat? I am feeling terribly hungry. Because the ladies had brought plenty of milk, butter, ghee, etc. So they were very happy to offer whatever he wanted. And Vyasa Maharshi ate everything, whatever they had brought. That was amazing for them. What is this? We had brought food for 10 people. He has taken away all the food. How could he eat so much? Anyway, afterwards they reminded him about crossing the river, because with this heavy meal, how he would be able to cross. And moreover, he is telling he would take us also. How can he do that? Then they asked him and they reminded him. Then Vyasa said, seeing the river, he prayed, "O Jamuna, if I have not eaten anything today, by virtue of that, I ask you to part your waters so that we may all walk to the other side." No sooner did the sage say these words than the waters of the Jamuna parted. The gopis were startled. What is this? How could he say, if I have not eaten anything today? He has eaten so much just now. How to explain it? They did not understand that this was the proof of Vyasa Maharshi's firm faith. What's the faith? He did not eat anything, but that it was the Lord who dwelt within him who was the real eater. It is God dwelling in my heart, eating this fruit, eating this food, not the soul. He had this tremendous faith, undoubted faith. So that proved the way. There are so many spiritual ideas spread out in the scriptures. In one place it is said, Sohamasmi, I am he. Who is that Paramatman? Verily myself. Who is that Godhead? Verily myself. That is the conclusion of the Jnanis. But the devotees say, the whole universe is the glory of God. Who would recognize a wealthy man without his power and riches? But it is quite different when God himself, gratified by the aspirant's devotion, says to him, you are the same as myself. Explaining this, he gave an anecdote. He said, the king was sitting in his court. His cook entered the hall. Suppose he goes and sits on the throne of the king and says, O king, you and I are the same. Suppose the king says like that. I mean the cook. What the people will say? They simply call him as a mad fellow. But on the other hand, pleased by the service of the cook, if the king himself calls him, well, come on, sit by the side of me. I love you very much. There is nothing wrong in that. Come on, there is no difference between you and me. Because king is inviting him, he comes and sits on the throne. Then people will not mistake. So it is not good for the ordinary people to say, I am God. There are many people who claim like that. They do little tidbits. Probably they may do about a few hours of meditation. Probably they may get some kind of peace in the mind. Immediately they conclude, I have become God. They are very quick to announce, I am so and so, I am so and so and so. Warrants. The people who claim that they are God themselves, are like cook who suddenly goes and sits on the throne of the king and telling, you and me are same. It's not good. So it's not good for the people to say, I am God. And Sri Ramakrishna tells further, the waves belong to the water. Does the water belong to the waves? Once upon a time, somehow, a pride entered into the heart of Narad. He thought he was a very great devotee, nobody can excel him. You know, there are so many lokas, so many regions as we are in this earth plane. It's what we call this Bhuloka. There are Sapta Lokas are there. Bhurloka, Bhurloka, Suvarloka, Mahaloka, Tapoloka, Janoloka, like that, so many lokas. Different regions, different worlds, we can say. In the same way, Vaikuntha Loka, where Lord Vishnu stays, according to the mythological scriptures. And there is one region called Satyaloka, where Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, stays. So each one has got a place and assignment to run the show. As long as the creation stands, everybody has to do one's assignment properly. So these lokas are called Sattvika Lokas. Sattvika Lokas. That means some regions are there where only pure thoughts prevail. There should not be any room for any kind of impurity in any manner. So, this Narada Maharshi was in Satvik Lok. He was in the place of Lord Vishnu. And how could a pride come to him? It is impurity of the mind. How could he boast himself that I am the supreme devotee, there is nobody else equal to me? So nobody can stay on in that region with that impurity. That impurity should be removed, then he can stay. So steps are to be taken. So Lord Vishnu immediately came to know the mind of the Narad and said, well, will you please do me one thing? Go to certain place, there is a village, there is a particular person, stay on with him for 1 week, full 1 week, spend your weekend there and find out what type of person he is and then come back to me and report. Just he said that. He never said you got impurity and you got that pride in you. He didn't say all those things. He simply said, do this. And the Narada thought himself, why Lord Vishnu is telling me like this to go to do like this? Well, there must be some purpose behind it. So he went. And he went to the particular place and he found that man was a farmer, a person who works in the field, agriculture. Ordinary cottage, very humble, poor, but contented, peaceful. So he watched him, as Vishnu said. Watched him from morning to night. What did he do? As soon as he got up from the bed, the first thing he would do was to remember Lord Vishnu, to remember God. Just the first thing, as soon as he opened his eyes, Bhagavan, he is uttering the name of Lord Vishnu. That's all. Then he would finish all his morning bath, etc., and then he would go to field, work whole day, very hard, then come late in the afternoon. Hectic, morning to night. His whole mind is in the field. how he could grow good crop. So, by the time he returns to the home, it was late in the evening and he was terribly exhausted. Anyway, after taking dinner, etc., he would go to bed. Before going to bed, just again he would say only once, O Lord, O Bhagavan, O Vishnu. Just he would utter the name of Lord and go to sleep. Narada observed this. What is this? Second day, third day, fourth day, same thing he is doing. What speciality in him? Why Vishnu sent me here? What is there to see in him? Whole day he is in field, working there, like a machine. Well, after 1 week, he returned back. Then he reported the whole matter. Lord Vishnu did not remark anything. He simply kept quiet and he said, well, now you should do one more thing. Now, keep this cup full of oil on your head. Go round this place 3 times and come back to me. Please take note, not a drop of the oil spill over. That's very important. That instruction you must follow very clearly. Not a drop should spill over. Go 3 times, come back. Narada thought, it's not difficult. Anyway, accordingly he did. He went 3 times, returned back. Then, when he returned back, the Lord said, well, we have gone 3 times before coming here. How many times could you remember me in the course of your walk around this place? How many times? Then Narada said, Oh Lord, you are putting me that question. How many times? Not even once. Then Narada further said, how could I remember you when I had to watch this cup brimming over with oil? You have told me not a drop should spill over. So my whole attention was on the oil cup. Concentration was on that. So I could not think of you at all. Then Lord said, this 1 cup of oil so diverted your attention that even you, who claims to be a very great devotee, forgot me altogether, could not remember me. But look at that village farmer. Though he was carrying the heavy burden of his family, still remembers me twice every day. Is it not great? Narada was awakened. Sure, it is true. That village farmer was greater devotee than Narada himself. That is a certificate given by Paramatma, the God himself. Don't boast like that. See how many ways Sri Ramakrishna wants to teach us. Most wonderful ideas in a simple way so that we can understand them and apply them in our life. If a man feels that God is there somewhere, if a man feels that way, he is ignorant. But he attains knowledge when he feels that God is here, not somewhere else. See how Sri Ramakrishna is trying to make us understand. We are running after God somewhere. Foolishly we are running. Just like musk deer running by the fragrance of the musk, which is in its own body. So he tries to make us understand this idea by giving an anecdote. He said, once a man wanted to smoke. He went to a neighbor's house to light his charcoal. It was dead of night. People were all sleeping. But this fellow went and keep on knocking the door at dead of night. Then the house owner, he opened the door and found out his friend has come there. What made you to come at this dead hour? What made you to come? Then the person said, oh, can you not guess? You know how fond I am of smoking. I have come here to light my charcoal. Will you please help me? Then the neighbor said, aha, what a fine man you are. You took the trouble to come and knock at this midnight. Why? You have a lighted lantern in your hand. Could you not light your charcoal through that? What a man seeks is very near him. Still he wanders about from place to place. Another man was looking everywhere for his towel. Finally he discovered that the towel had been on his shoulder all the time. He had forgotten that and is searching, where have you kept, where have you kept? This is the way how we behave in this world. Sri Ramakrishna tells another important point. There are a number of opinions about God. People actually, sometimes they become disgusted. And even many people have asked me also some questions. Swamiji, why should there be so many different forms of God? Is it not good to have one form of God and so that we may not have confusion? People ask like that. But Sri Ramakrishna gives a wonderful explanation for that. Each opinion is a path. There are innumerable opinions and innumerable paths leading to God. But, this but is very important. You must stick to one path with all your strength. With all your strength. A man can reach the roof of a house by stone stairs, or through a ladder, or through a rope ladder, or by simply a rope, or even by a bamboo. These are all means of getting into the roof. But he cannot reach the roof if he sets foot now on one and now on another. If he keeps on changing the means of getting into the roof, how can he reach the roof at all? You have to decide whether you want to go through ladder, whether you want to go through rope, whatever, or you want to climb through the bamboo, whatever you decide. All these things will lead you there. Decide one thing and stick on to that. Hold on to it. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said. So he should firmly follow one path. Likewise, in order to realize God, a man must follow one path with all his strength. But you must regard all other views as so many paths leading to God. You should not feel that your path is the only right path and that other paths are wrong. You must not bear malice towards anybody. Nirvairaha sarva bhuteshu, Bhagavan says in the Gita. One shouldn't entertain any malice towards anyone. So this way Sri Ramakrishna very skillfully has given spiritual instructions so that we may feel awakened. May Sri Ramakrishna bless us all. Thank you. The benediction. May our learned mothers
inspire us with their righteous deeds. May the learned people of noble thoughts guide us. May the omnipresent Om bring us peace and healthy life. May this air be peaceful. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. Now this English translation is done from the Sanskrit verse which I am reciting now. This is from Rigveda. Shanno aditir bhavatu vratebish shanno bhavantu marutas svarkaha shanno vishnusamupushano astu shanno bhavitram samvastu vayuhu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.